The Nintendo Switch has, to our mind, become the standout console of this generation. Welcome to Get Indie Gaming and to a new series here on the channel, where each month we count down 10 Switch indie games we believe are essential to buy and play. Be sure to let us know your favourites down in the comments, and with that, let's jump straight into the action. At number 10, and in all honesty, in no particular order, we get this series going with Slay the Spire. While deck building games aren't everybody's cup of tea, if you haven't played one in a while, we'd wager if you take the time to play this, then we suspect it may very well win you over. As a collective, we liked it so much we placed it all the way up in the pointy end of our rundown of the best indie games that came out last year, and if you haven't seen that countdown, there's a link in the description or follow the card you can see on screen now. Unlike other deck builders, Slay the Spire also mashes together roguelike elements, which gives it something that little bit extra. That little bit of special spice that sees you battle your way up the titular Spire building and adapting your deck as you go. As you do, you'll hone your tactics according to your character and individual playstyle, which changes and evolves as you make your way up the tower. It's that good, it's probably one of the best deck building games of the last 5 years. At number 9, Baba Is You overturns the usual puzzle format where rules are fixed from the get-go. In this one, well, the rules change from level to level, with you shifting blocks of verbs and nouns to change how various things within the stage interact with your character and the world around it. Rocks turn into water, fires float up into the air, and walls, for example, can be switched into the exit flag. In places, it really can be one heck of a head-scratcher, although the problems can usually be solved by out-and-out pure deductive logic reasoning. That said, if you can't figure out a solution, there are ways in some stages to continue with the game without necessarily quote-unquote completing it. With over 200 levels to play within the base offering, a new stage creation system that's to be added at some point in the new year will, there's no doubt, give Baba For You even more of our playtime throughout 2020.
We stopped counting the years after 1988. Time is now measured in minutes left to live. 18 to reach the top of Skymount Tower. 18 before your heart explodes. 18 before you lose everything.
Black Future 88 from November of last year takes the number 8 slot, with it being a short and uncompromisingly difficult cyberpunk roguelike that could have made it into the top 20 rundown from last year had we seen it earlier. Set within a post-nuclear end-of-the-world kind of thing, and yes, while there are plenty of these retro, garish pixel art games on the eShop, what sets this one on top of many of the others is how fast it plays, how beautiful it looks, and via the use of a clever auto-aiming system mechanic. Okay, so we know what you're probably thinking, and yes, on paper this sounds odd, although without it, as it plays when we last picked it up, it would be too much for anybody without Herculean reaction and concentration abilities. This means all, and when we say all, that's very firmly tongue-in-cheek, you have to do is navigate your way through the 2D environment, which is challenging enough without having to worry about targeting your weapons. The tower is of course procedurally generated and split into 5 areas, each of which ends with a boss fight, and yep, you've guessed it, those are tough little so-and-sos, although once beaten, like the rest of Black Future 88, it feels awesome for having done so. Next up at number 7, Neo Cab follows the cyberpunk theme of the previous game and sees you play at a point somewhere in the near future as one of the last human rideshare drivers in a city based on those from the west coast of the US. What begins as a quest to find your lost friend, whereby ferrying passengers around the place, and by doing so, you unearth clues and snippets of what's happened to her. It's not long before this morphs into something more, with it taking you along a journey examining the nature of the gig economy and how specialization in certain areas are all becoming more prevalent. It also takes a peek into the modern grandstanding of late capitalist technology firms, and our collective obsession and fondness to see them only as a force for good, passing over their and those that run them murky side aspects. Above this moralizing, there's a strong visual novel which builds throughout, and by the end, the notion you've been searching for your lost friend kind of seems a sideline rather than the main plot. Neocab came in October and is a worthy choice for anyone with an eye for stylish narrative adventures. Up next at number 6, Kine came out around the same time as Neocab and feels like it's been left behind in the wake of other higher profile games. Alongside Baba Is You, it's one of the better puzzle games to come out last year and comes from Gwen Frey, who previously worked on Flame in the Flood and Bioshock Infinite. It gives a pretty unique premise. You play within a splendidly hand-drawn environment as a group of instruments, all looking to band together to become professional artists and make the big time. It's darn right quirky and in places quite brilliant with it, being one of those puzzle games that shows you enough of the what, the where and the how without giving too much away. It also, like all other great puzzlers, makes you feel smart in a positive way when everything clicks into place. With side quests to the main story exploring individual character relationships over time, there's plenty to keep you busy with a difficulty curve that feels just about right. Oh, and of course the soundtrack is, as could be expected, perfectly suited for how this all looks and what Kine is trying to do. At number 5 from late last year, we have Dead End Job, which has quickly become one of our most loved twin-stick shooters to be out across the whole of the eShop. While offering a single player, which in all honesty, as individuals we've only just touched the very surface, it's the couch co-op option that's seen us coming back to Dead End Job time and time again, with it being the most played game on our Switch over the holidays just gone. In this shooter inspired by the 90s cartoon Ren and Stimpy, you play as employees from Ghouls Be Gone, the so-called number one paranormal pest control company in the business. While we've yet to see too much of it, the inclusion of Mixer and Twitch integration is a wonderful touch, with streamers on the platforms being able to open various gameplay options to their viewers, and we really hope to see more games shipping with such interactive elements, which are a fine addition for both streamers and their fans alike. All in, with the colourful graphics and a fine level of fun and silliness, Dead End Job is honestly anything but. Up next, at number 4, Creature in the Well is a game we've come back to play for a second time over the past couple of months. When we first spent time with it in late Q3 of last year, it didn't quite click. The hack and slash pinballing mechanics just felt too finicky, needing at times what felt unnaturally high levels of accuracy and precision to move forwards. While much of this still holds with time and practice, as a group we've seen a sharp uplift in our enjoyment while replaying it. Putting aside such issues, it's as beautiful to look at today in early 2020 as it was last year, particularly the sections with the long drawn-out camera shots and via the subtle colour scheme that, while muted, just gels so well with everything else. Creature in the Well is unique and one of the more different, as it were, games across the whole of the Switch platform.
You are alone in a cruel world. You must fight for survival.
While we're on the subject of difficult and frustrating games on the Switch, here's another delicious example. Rain World came out in late 2018 and offers up one of the most handsome looking 2D pixel art Metroidvania mixing survival and puzzle elements on the entire eShop. It's also very difficult, and as far as challenges go, even on the lowest setting, it had us right from the start wondering if we could really be bothered with it. We're glad we did though, and while hands up we've yet to see the credits roll, we would love to have seen more people pick this up, if anything, for how beautiful it looks and how your character behaves when you play. There's something quite special here in how vulnerable you are against pretty much everything you come across. While you can learn the level layout, the game with its procedural enemy creation means you can never second guess the when, where, or how you're likely to be attacked, and more often than not, gobbled up for somebody's little snack. As we alluded to earlier, it feels a darn shame Rain World didn't get the traction we think it deserved. In the number 2 position, Well, there's nothing quite like the return of the Obra Din on the eShop or any other related storefront. Coming from Alex Pope, who brought us Papers, Please, Obra Din is styled in a fashion similar to early Mac games from a few decades ago, and while at first somewhat odd and very different, it's quickly mesmerizing and never dull, even given the minimal colors used throughout. You play as an investigator sent to discover what happened to the passengers and crew of the Obra Din, which after a few years away has returned in mysterious circumstances to its home port. With the help of a pocket watch of sorts, which allows you to alter time, you can piece together the events and goings on that happened on board, from the mundane accidents to murders and other events too full of spoilers to cover in any real detail. The Obra Din is a fabulous game to play alone, or as we did with others where bouncing around ideas often delivered us answers far quicker than on our own. It's one of those games where it feels handy to keep a notepad and pencil to hand to jot down ideas and thoughts as you roll through it. By the time we saw the credits roll, we had notes and scribbles all around the couch, which to us is always the hallmark of some quality interactive entertainment. At the number 1 position in this first episode of the new series, the Touryst takes the Switch to the very limit of what the hardware is capable of, coupling in the voxel art, jaw-droppingly stunning weather and lighting effects, all at a constant no frames lost of 60 FPS. This is to date on a technical level one of the best releases seen yet on the entire platform. As for the story, well, it's wafer thin, set around the collection of ancient objects, and yet that doesn't really matter. As something to play with and spend time with, the Touryst, with 1 or 2 exceptions, is quite the delight and a real gem to play early this new year. Without combat, the game leverages its platforming puzzle elements with care and attention. They are nearly all child's play, being well signposted and never tedious. The dungeons too are a joy, with only one section made oddly difficult due to the camera orientation, where jumps across suspended balls feel like an act of faith rather than skill. The end-level semi-boss battles are also finely done and again can be enjoyed and played by folks of all ages. What the Touryst does do so well, however, is the little details. The kind of things you might do while, actually are on holiday. Taking photos, visiting arcades, museums, even the act of taking a stroll on the beach or walking in the rain feels so very satisfying that as a whole, this all works perhaps surprisingly well. So, which indie games on the Switch would you consider to be an essential play? Let us know in the comments, and if you've liked the video, please click the like button. While you're here, if you haven't done so, now is a great time to subscribe to the channel and join one of the biggest communities here on this platform. We upload around 3 times a week, and a subscription is the best way to stay connected with all of us here at Get Indie Gaming. Many thanks for watching. We look forward to seeing you all again here soon for more videos.